Oh boy, how do I even start something like this? So, if you don't know me, I'm Flynn. I'm one of the admins in the Rookie Fleet. Speaking of which, we're in the Rookie Fleet now. So, if you don't know what kind of game this is Orion Drift. It's a really cool game. You can see the giant, really cool background right underneath me, and all kind of cool stuff. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna try to do something that I've never done before. And I'm going to try to pour all my resources, well, nearly all my resources, into this particular activity. And I'm going to try to make it as best as I can. So, just like what the title said, I'm going to be doing something that is incredibly new to me. I've never touched this kind of program before. So, I'm going to be making a game. Um, the game is going to be a VR MMO RPG. Now, this has been done plenty of times. You've got, you know, all kinds of games like that. I like it's it's something I've been wanting to do ever since I played Zenith, The Last City. So I definitely want to do something like that. So I have my own ideas on what I want to do, and then I've got a whole bunch of recommendations from other people too. So yeah, it's that's what we'll do. We're going to be making a game. It'll be a VR MMO RPG. Now, some of the features, I'll also put a bunch on the screen if I remember to, on everything that I'm going to try to fit into this beast of a game. It's going to be made inside of the Unreal Engine. And the main reason why it's going to be made inside the Unreal Engine is due to quality and resolution. So, one of the main factors behind this decision is my brother. So, my brother is a game addict, right? So, he plays all kinds of games, and yeah, he's like the number one critic that you could ever do or could ever um, find for any kind of game and tell you exactly what you're missing and everything like that. So, um, that's what we're doing. So I ran the idea by him. I said, "Hey, what would you think if I created a VR game?" He said, "It better not suck." He said, "The game better not suck." So I'm gonna try my best for that. He said, in particular, he wants the graphics to be extremely good. Now that only really leaves Unreal Engine for that. I've tried Unity Engine a little. I pretty much spent like 4 days straight messing with terrain, which it's fun. But Unreal Engine, it brings quality, stability, free assets that come out, I believe, monthly. I'm not sure. It could be weekly. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't even touched it. I haven't even fired it up. I got it downloaded, which took forever, but I don't have it. I haven't started it. Right. So, along with the 300 different kind of tutorials that I got to go through, apparently the coding part is like the most scariest part to me because I don't have any kind of coding experience whatsoever. So, uh, apparently, Unreal Engine has these little boxes, and you can string together boxes after box after box, and then boom, that's pretty much the same thing as sitting out there typing hundreds of codes, right? So, or hundreds of lines of codes rather, with all these special weird kind of, you know, everything. Anyway, so characteristics of this VR MMO is it's going to be an MMO, which is massively multiplayer online. So it's going to be massively multiplayer. I just repeated myself anyway. So it's going to be server based, but one thing about Zenith is they did something called shards, okay, which is basically servers. It's just their way of different comment. So what they did is they did NAEUOCE, right? But they would have like I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 63 or maybe 65 players per server. I want to try to go for 100 per server. That's just my kind of thought process on it. And so it's going to be MMO, so massively multiplayer online. So there's going to be a massive amount of players per server on one at a time, right? So when that server fills up, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one, right? So it's going to be an RPG as well. So it's not just going to be massively multiplayer online to where you just go out, you level up, and you're done. No. So this is going to be RPG. Basically, there's going to be specific skills, jobs, trades, however you want to look at it. So there's going to be like a farmer. There's going to be like a forger, a librarian, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And so it's going to have different kind of things. And now those could be NPCs, but they also could be players too. So the player would have the option to spec into, let's say, farming. And so, yes, they would still have to go through the dungeons and fight everything, but they would be more leveled up in farming to be able to give their squad a amazing
My
quality
wandering stars.
food that
Have you
would
seen how the
boost
parkour
health or
district is
stamina or
transforming? My
attack
old
or
quarry is practically
whatnot,
glowing with
right?
new life.
So that's something we'll try. And then with all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be MMO, and then it's going to be RPG, and then it's going to have. I don't want to rip exactly everything from Zenith, but I want to try to have sword, like some kind of sword class that would specialize in swords. Also, if you've ever watched SAO, Sword Art Online, there's a skill called dual wielding. So in some of the VR MMOs that I've played, you get dual wielding right off the bat. You get two swords, boom, you got two swords, you're ready to roll. I don't really like that. So, in my opinion, in order to do anything other than the normal base one-handed swing, it needs to be okay. So, technical difficulties. So, anyway, like I was saying, I want to have a sword class, and then I also want to have a mage class of swords, right? So, make it a little closer. Close enough? Yeah, it's probably close enough. So, I want to be able to have a sword class, and the different kind of skills that I want for the sword class is, for one of them, I want to be able to use a long range melee weapon like a great sword or a great battle axe or something like that. And then I do want the skill dual wielding to be a skill, basically. So if you pick up the dual wielding skill, then you're able to wield dual blades effectively. Now, without the skill, okay, so one sec, because that spectator being off is bugging me. Okay, so one thing to note with the dual wielding, so people can dual wield normally, but to dual wield effectively and do more damage and get the combos, I do believe it would be better with a skill. Combos wise, it's not going to be kind of like a combo to where you have to do one skill, then another skill, then boom, like a trio skill. I mean, I guess it could, but I don't think that's the way I want to roll with it. But anyway, so it's going to be the two classes that I'm thinking of first is blades, and then a magic user. So the magic user, I want to be a little interesting. So magic users are notoriously weak. Okay, the attacks themselves, if you level them up, yada yada yada, they might be good, but in the long run, the effects are weak, and I feel like there's not enough flash. Okay, if any of you has watched Dragon Ball Super, my inspiration is coming incredibly from that. They've got a lot of bright lights, a lot of flashing lights, and I want each impact from that mage to feel it. Okay, so for the regular fireball, I want it to spawn in the hand. I want it to be massive. So obviously it's going to start small, and then you're going to level it up. You level it up, and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, when you throw that thing, depending on the size of it, it's going to make a big explosion. I'm talking big. Now, potentially, even have an archer that has some magic capabilities. And when you draw back that bow, you could put like an elemental affinity on it, right? So like fire or lightning or anything. And when it lands, it's going to do some serious damage. Okay. On about that. What I want it to have is I want it to have comprehensive dungeons. What I mean by comprehensive is I don't want you to be able to run through, skip all of the modding or mobbing with bees. So I don't want you to be able to skip all the mobbing and skip straight to the boss room. I don't like that. I don't like that. It's great for farming, don't get me wrong, but I don't like it. I don't like it. You're skipping past all the hard work, okay? So, in my opinion, what I want the dungeons to look like is I want you to be able to have a key. Okay, so here's another interesting thing. If any of you have watched Solo Leveling, the anime, it's incredibly popular, right? And I love their idea with the gates. The gates pop up randomly, and you enter them, and then it's a dungeon, right? Cool. Another thing, the instance dungeons, where you have a key. Stick the key in what looks like nothing, like thin air, and then a lock appears. You stick the key in the lock, turn it, door. Okay? I would love something like that. So a door would pop up, open the door, go through, you're in the dungeon. So the dungeons, I want them to be extremely difficult. I'm not talking like one enemy here, one enemy there, one enemy there, and then boom, there's a boss. I want hundreds of enemies. Okay? I'm talking, I want some numbers here. Okay? So when you go into this dungeon, I want it to be an earned reward. And if you level up enough to get AoE abilities, which there will be, you could wipe out groups and groups and groups of enemies per swing, per magic cast, whatever it may be. So the best way I can think about it is imagine a mage that's properly leveled up. They would spawn a heart. They would spawn a. I'm thinking about heart ball. They would spawn a fireball in their hand, throw it, and if it's spec'd right, it would be a miniature nuke, and you could just see the bodies fly. It's my idea, and I believe I could do it, but it's going to take a long time. Anyway, so comprehensive dungeons. I want the dungeons to feel like you've earned it. Okay, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I'm getting excited. So I want the dungeons to feel like you've earned it. And then when you get to the final boss, even though it's not a raid boss, which, get into that in a minute. So once you've actually got to the main boss of the dungeon, I want there to be higher level mini bosses inside that dungeon that come at you first while the boss watches. Okay? Get past the little mini bosses, and now you're at the big boss. The big boss, I want it to be almost unfair difficulty. Now, I want the big boss to almost be unfairly hard to beat, right? So I want this to be extremely skill based. I don't want a level 2 walking into a dungeon and then breezing through it. I don't want that. I want it to be a level 15 going in there and barely scraping by. That way, I'll get to this in a minute. When you're higher level, I'll get into all that here in a minute. So, the main boss, I want it to be extremely, extremely, extremely hard. That way, every single dungeon is earned instead of just another thing you have to go through. Okay? If it's just another thing you have to go through, and I have dungeon after dungeon after dungeon after dungeon, it's going to feel like a grind. It's going to feel like it's really dragging on. It's not going to feel earned. And I want it to feel earned. I really do. I want each player to be sweating by the time they get out of their first dungeon. And I want to keep that momentum going over and over and over. Right? So, leveling. The leveling I want it to be kind of like everything else, but not, right? So, I mean, that's extremely vague, right? So, it's going to have levels, so you can level up from 0. Everybody starts at 0, so you level up to 1, and you go all the way up to 100. Okay. Now, as soon as you're at level 100, you can do something called prestiging. If any of you have played Call of Duty, you know exactly what that is, right? Same concept. But I want it to also be ranked. So, just like in solo leveling, well, kind of like in solo leveling, the ranks are going to be kind of the same. They're going to be E rank, D, C, B, A, then we'll go S. Once you get to S, you have the opportunity to go to double S. Now we're getting into Tokyo Ghoul, right? Now, once you get to double S, you can go to triple S. Now, I don't know anything over triple S. Maybe after you get to triple S, you can go to like X or something. I don't know. So, cool, fun stuff. But I want to break it down a little bit more. I don't want it to just be like E rank, D rank, C, whatever. I want it to be E5. Everybody starts at E5. And then you do some stuff, you go to E4, go to E3, E2, E1. Now, once you're in E1, I want that to be the rank, not the level. I want that to be the rank that will be requiring of you to be able to go into the dungeon. This dungeon is going to be a little bit different. This dungeon is going to be the dungeon to prepare you for, what are we on? E rank, A, B, C, D. So D rank stuff. So this one's going to be extremely difficult too. And so the E rank, E1, so E rank level 1, this dungeon is going to be pushing you into D5 if you pass it, right? So if you complete this, you go from E to D. I want this to be extremely difficult. I want you to be able to earn your way to the D rank. Same thing when you get the D1, you get the C5 with an extremely hard dungeon. Okay? I want these dungeons to be extremely difficult. Now, I don't want these dungeons to be team-based, like team puzzle exercises where there's 4 buttons here and you need to stand on all 4 buttons and then the door opens. One player runs through the door, flips a switch, the door stays open. All 4 can run back in. I don't want that. I want it to be able to solo it, but it's going to be extremely difficult. Also, player scaling. Depending on how many people join that dungeon, I want it to scale. Okay, so if there are, let's say, 25 enemies in the first ring for 1 player, and 4 players are in, there's going to be 100, right? So it's going to feel like there's 4 players in there. I don't want it to be 4 players going into a 1-player dungeon, breezing through it, and beating the boss like it's no big deal. I don't want that. If you're in there with a group of 30, I want it to feel like it. Okay. Teams or guilds or whatever you want to think about it. I like the idea of guilds because it gives room for a leader, and then it also gives room for healers, tanks, DPS. I love that idea. I love it, love it, love it. Now, there's also some little jobs that you can do. You could do farmer, you could do forger, you could do bookkeeper, you could do librarian, it's kind of the same thing. You could do historian, you could do vault master, all kinds of stuff, man. And I really want to follow through with this idea, right? Let's see, what else are we gonna do? Raid bosses. Oh, okay. Let me skip raid bosses for now. So leveling, right? The E5, E4 might not make it in. It might just be the E rank, the D rank, the CB, whatever. I don't think it'd be like E5, E4, E3, E2, E1, and then D5, D4, D3, D2, D1. That would be a little too grindy for my taste, I think, anyway, now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe once you get to a certain level, then you can be eligible to go into the dungeon, beat it by the skin of your teeth, and then you would be put into the next rank. Probably that's probably what I think I'll do. Leveling, something in Zenith that I hated, but I get why they did it. I hated it. Like anyway, the thing that I hated a lot about the leveling system in Zenith was if you are a level 100, let's say, and you go back to the very starting level, the way they set it up is it would nerf your level to be slightly or moderately stronger than the level ones because you would have all your skills and stuff. But your health would scale. If you had 30,000 health, it would scale down to like 3,000. Right? I hate that. I hate it. Hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It's not going to be a thing in this game. So, if you're level 100, let's say you're S rank, and you go to an E rank area, I want you to look like a god amongst. I want you to look like a god standing among ants. You know, I really like that idea because people can look up to you and say, "Whoa, I can do that!" You know, imagine you're somebody with just a lonely broken sword, and you look at somebody coming through you with, I don't know, heavy artillery or maybe a bow that shoots 300 projectiles or something like that. I don't know. That would seem incredible to somebody that loves it. So that gives them a goal. That gives them a goal to go do. I like that. I like that. But here's the issue. Here's the potential issue with that. Farming. Okay, so if a high level player goes into a low level area and decides to steal all the kills, basically, there's got to be a way to combat that. Maybe I might put in some kind of proximity detector. So if like anybody that's over like level 20 levels over an area comes in and kills a monster, anybody in a certain area would get shared XP for that. I think that's a pretty good way to combat that. But that would also be like power leveling or something like that. So I don't like the idea of power leveling. So maybe have it put to where if a low level goes into an area that's 10 or more levels higher than their level, like if a level 1 goes into a level 20 area, it might be better if they get reduced XP rather than gained XP, right? So that would be a whole new idea for that. I think that would be a pretty good idea. That would get rid of the whole power leveling thing. It wouldn't get rid of it all entirely. It might slow it down a good bit for sure, because of raid bosses and stuff. Raid bosses are next. So let me go back to the other thing. So in Zenith, what you could do at a level 1, I think somebody's coming to chase me. It looks like a few people are coming to get me. But one thing that Zenith did was, if you're level 1, the map was set up in a way that if you knew the route, you could go all the way to the end area. You'd get shit on because you're level 1 and you're going to a level 40 area, but there was still that option. I don't like that at all. If you're a low level, I don't want you to even look at a higher level area at all. I don't want you to know what it looks like. I don't want you to know the layout. I don't want you to look at the monsters that's there. I don't want anything about it at all whatsoever. Now, layout of the game. I want there to be at least one area per rank. Okay? So if we're doing the whole EDBCA, EDCBA, S, double S, triple S, X, whatever. I want there to be an area for that. Now, with that comes preparation. So that'll be like behind the scenes stuff and all kinds of stuff. But I want there to be a comprehensive, complex, and very, very descriptive tutorial to the game. And I want the entire map to be on display but you're never going to be able to go to any higher level than what you're currently in. But once you go to, let's say you were in E rank and now you go to D rank. When you're D rank, you're able to see the E rank area, right? So the E ranks cannot see the D rank area, but the D ranks can see the lower areas. So with that mindset, the S rank would be able to see the entire map, but the A rank would not be able to see the S rank area, right? That's the kind of thing that I was kind of leaning in towards. And yeah, that's cool. Another thing I was playing around with is like a dual game setup. What I mean by that is I want the game to start out looking like a zombie shooter. Okay, zombie shooters have been made hundreds of times, if not, right? So I want it to start out looking like a zombie shooter, and as you progress, I want it to turn into more of like a fantasy, magic-y, spacey kind of vibe, right? I want it to start out zombie shooter and maybe morph its way into something like Zenith or something like Dragon Ball where you actually have to fight. Um, we'll see. I like the zombie shooter idea because once you have graduated out of the zombie shooter area, then it starts to introduce magic and swords and everything like that. Kind of like you take a step back through time from guns to swords, right? But at the same time, the guns become absolutely useless as you continue through. Maybe you might be able to like enhance them with magic or something like that. That could be something that would be pretty neat. Um, raid bosses. Raid bosses should not be easy by any means, right? Um, even to players that know the mechanics, that know everything to do, I want them to be extremely difficult. I don't want them to be party only. I want them to be, if you have a maxed out character for that area, I think you should be able to do the raid boss, but I think it should be extremely difficult and you need to utilize everything in that boss arena to do it. I think that's what I wanted to do. I don't want it to be luck based, and I don't want it to be um, glitchy or laggy or anything. That's going to be a whole other issue in itself, trying to combat lag. But the boss is going to have mechanics. It's going to have phases. It's going to have special attacks that only come out when his health gets to a certain point. But I don't want that to be easily traceable. You're going to know the attack patterns, but you're not going to know the severity of it. You're not. It's going to throw a weird curveball at you every now and then, right? And I mean, you're going to be able to know what the attacks do once you do it for a while, but you're also, I don't know. It's really hard to explain, really. But yeah, that's the kind of direction that I want to go to for the game, and I think it would be a pretty good project to do. Now, updates, right? So I'm going to do my best to update as much as I can here, whether it be in game and in Zenith, because I'm still one of the admins in the rookie fleet, right? So I still got duties to do here. So I've got a bunch of stuff to do that if I remember to, I'll put right here, right? So I'm going to try my best to find time for this. There is a link to my Discord in the description of this video. If you want future opportunities to test this game, you'll get a, I don't even know. I don't even know how to send people private keys or whatever. So you'll get, it'll be worth your while to play test it for sure when the time comes for that. So staff wise, so like in-game staff, Discord staff or anything, I want it to be able to link to Discord. Okay, I want my game to be able to link to Discord, and for that, I want a dedicated staff team. Obviously, not going to need one now because it's not even made, right? I don't even have the first block put in at the time of this video. So I'll need a whole dedicated staff team and a whole other dedicated everything like that. Maybe even some people that I hire for, for like coding or graphics design or layout or whatever it might be, sculpting or assets or modeling or anything under the sun that I could use people for. Not payable right now for sure. Let's see here. What else am I wanting to look at? It's yeah, so that's kind of the direction I'm going towards. This game will happen, but it's going to take quite a while, especially with me and my busy schedule. So, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Now, the thing I'm not going to do, and it's probably recommended that I do this, it's probably recommended that you start out on a project and you use that to fool around with or find your heading or figure out what does what and figure out this and figure out that. That would probably be the best way to do it. But I don't want to do it that way. And I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to jump straight into a VR multiplayer template and I'm going to take off with it. Okay? I'm going to figure out what does what right then, right there. I'm going to save it about 1,000,000 times. That way, when I break it, because I will, it's not going to break the entire project or the entire game, right? Pricing wise, if it goes the way I want it, this game will cost somewhere around
have been updated with all
$35 to
you'll need for
$40
today's festivities.
to get, and that is interesting because, I mean, if I make it free, then I'll have to double up on cosmetics. Because another thing, if you notice what I'm wearing cosmetics, right? I got a skin, a pattern, a badge, a hat, a heart ball that you have to pay money for. And I have, and I love cosmetics. Cosmetics are great. Love every bit of it. Also, one of the things I'm using to record this is a little perk, right? I want perks to be like that in the game. So I'm recording it with something called the Spectator, which is a whole new thing. Well, it's not new now, but it's a whole different thing than what I'm actually flailing my arms in, right? So anyway, I want there to be something like that in my game, right? Now, cosmetics. If I make the game free, I'm going to have to make the cosmetics expensive. That's how it is. That's not much I can do about that. If I make the game, say $20, if I make the game $20, then I can make the cosmetics about medium priced. And if I make the game expensive, like 30, 40, $50, maybe even $60, then I can really cheap down on the cosmetics. And yeah. So I mean, I don't know. All of that have to be figured out. Cosmetics, I'm going to put a bunch in there. And the cosmetics, I don't want them to be functional because that would be way too pay to win, right? Obviously, and that's not great. I want the cosmetics to be extremely flashy, right? So imagine this. Imagine, let's just say I'm a mage, okay? If I'm a mage and I'm a fire type and I buy this cloak and I put the cloak on, the cloak is going to detect that I'm a fire type and it's going to adopt fire looks, okay? You hear what I'm saying? So imagine you could pair up. Let's see here. What would be a good one? So let's say the cloak itself is white, and you would buy the cloak out of some kind of shop or whatever. When you put the cloak on, you're a fire type. It's going to change into a black and red theme. Black, red, and orange theme. Yellow, that would be so sick. And then you could also trading, right? So trading is a tricky thing because obviously you're going to have higher level players that's been here for a little while. You're going to see them trade off higher level loot to lower player people, right? And that's not great. It's not fun. It just ruins everything about it. So if I can put some kind of limiting factor in there to where there would have to be like a 10 level difference. Okay, so if a level 10 was receiving trades from a level 30, wouldn't be able to happen. But if a level 10 received trades from a level 20, then it would happen, right? But it would also have to tie into the level of the loot. So the loot would have to be the 10 level requirement too, because if not, then players could just find a loophole. Like a level 100 player could trade with a 90 and an 80 and a 70 and a 60 all the way down, and then a level 20 would trade a level 10 player with level 100 loot, and that's not great, right? I don't want that. So it might have to do something with all of that too. Let's see here. Guild loot would be cool. Some ESO kind of stuff. PvP would definitely be a part of it. But here's the thing with PvP, right? So in normal sense in PvP, what you see nowadays is you see a duel request. So you walk up to somebody, you press a button or whatever, it says request a duel. If the other party accepts, you duel it out, right? I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be to the point to where it's an open world. You can attack anybody you want. Here's the trick. Well, once you get... No, because that would be terrible too. Maybe no PvP. Oh. Maybe there would be certain areas or certain levels that would be PvP allowed. Maybe. We'll have to figure out a reward system if you won the battle. Guild Wars, I do want that. So you might be able to have a specific area that would be set up kind of like a capture the flag kind of thing, or like a hard point, or yeah, kind of like a capture the flag thing, where a guild would be over here, and they would control this area. You'd have another guild over here that would control that area, another guild way over here that would control that area. And so if they wanted to take over that area, it would give the guild more boosts towards XP or something like that. And this would be like the top 3 guilds. You could have hundreds of smaller guilds, they wouldn't get these perks, right? But these top 3 guilds would. And so they would be constantly battling each other out for more rewards, more stats. Let's say if they controlled this little single district area over here, it would give them plus 10 or plus 5 or plus 10% EXP, maybe, or plus 10% extra loot chance. And then if they took the number 2 district, all those stats will double. And if they controlled all 3, they would ideally triple, or maybe even go up to 50% for everything. Right? But that would be a whole new thing in its own. Weapons. If you've played Borderlands, Borderlands is a classic game of, if you don't want this gun, you can choose the 3 billion other different kinds of guns. I want that. I want there to be an extensive and an exhausting amount of firearms, and I want there to be a ton of wands for the mages, some staffs for the sorcerers, blades, short blades, daggers, swords, shields, maces, mauls, hammers, everything. I want it all. And I'll have it all, but it's going to take a while. And space travel, maybe. So if you've ever watched The Flash on Netflix, right? There's a character in there. Sorry if you haven't watched it. You might want to scroll off now. There's a player in there called, or not a player. There's a character, and they're called Zoom. And if you watch Zoom and Savitar even, so they could hit the air and create a wormhole. And you jump through that wormhole to go to a different area. I love that idea. I love that idea. If you've seen some of the other games to where you open a map, click on it, boom, you're going. Love it. If you go to a shrine of sorts, and then you're able to teleport from the shrine, I don't really like that. It means you have to go all the way back to the teleport, and then you can travel. I don't like that. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're stuck, and I crashed again.
But I'll tell you what, everything's going to crap. Okay, so I can control my screen. So basically, since I'm crashing so much, I'll just go ahead and explain it. I don't know what I was explaining, but yeah. So let me know what you think about the game. Just thoughts. I didn't even think I was be rambling for 47 minutes so far, but there it is. Let me know what you think. Join the Discord. See you guys.